Welcome back. We're going to continue our journey through Celtic Lent. So we'll start with a reading from Matthew chapter 11. And I have to say that every year we take a bunch of people, a cohort, through a year of preparation for the Order of the Mustard Seed. And this particular little passage at the end of Matthew 11 has almost become like a hallmark passage that each cohort journeys with and tries to live out. And it's become, we don't intend for it to be, but it just lands so beautifully with the thought of people adopting vows or a rule of life. Anyway, let me read the passage and then we'll have a moment of quiet. This is from the Message translation. Jesus says, "Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly." Let's just quieten our hearts and become aware of God's presence with us as we open our lives to Him in these few moments. Oh, Lord, I've loved today. We've had a time of worship this evening and been reflecting on the greatness of God, reading through Isaiah 40 and realizing there's no one who can compare with Him. He holds the whole universe in the span of His hand. No one like Him. No one like Him. He's beyond description, unfathomable. He's a mystery. Books talk about Him being like the cloud of unknowing, full of glory, full of splendor, full of majesty. And yet, we then went on to think that this God, this indescribable God, this beyond imagination God, all-powerful, He gives us, if we believe in Him, the power to become His children. So we become children of this God. The thoughts of God Himself are pretty mind-blowing, but the thought then that we can become children of God is properly mind-blowing. So I'm a little bit stuck there. Not a bad place to be stuck, I think. I think as people consider rules of life, there's a bunch of things that can get in the way of that, actually. So let me read a little passage from Ray Simpson's book, which is called A Pilgrim Way. I think this is a helpful reflection on rules of life. People look for a path that is simple, yet not simplistic. In an age of mobility, people look for roots. In an age of dislocation, people want to reconnect with the whole. An authentic way, such as is offered by many rules of life. Obviously, he's referring to the community of Aidan and Hilda. So, an authentic way does not stifle our personality. It frees us to live from our deepest core. To live authentically means that I choose my lifestyle. I do not succumb to the lifestyle others foist upon me. It means that I use my time, money, and talents according to my deepest convictions. I love it because I think when people think about a rule of life, and sometimes when you read some of the ancient rules of life, it can very much come across like this. It's almost like returning back to the law. We go back to the Torah, the law of Moses. And we know that that's an impossible way to live. And so if we think about the rule of life being something that's foisted upon us, that then becomes an encumbering set of rules, then I think we go about looking at a rule of life very badly, and if that's the kind of rule of life we try to adopt, then it won't serve us. But if it becomes a trellis, a framework, upon which we can base the structure of our lives, then hopefully it becomes more of the kind of thing that Jesus is talking about in that passage we opened with, where we can take a real rest. We can learn the unforced rhythms of grace, where there's that sense that there's nothing heavy or ill-fitting that's put on us, but we keep company with Jesus and we learn to live freely and lightly. We become exactly who we want to be. I know without a structure I can just flop everywhere, and a little bit like a rambling rose that desperately needs a structure to be working to. And interestingly, for people that are going through the year of preparation with the Order of the Mustard Seed, quite often, instead of them feeling like they have to take things on to live in this way, they usually discover, it's probably about halfway through the year, but they usually discover that what they really need to do is take things off. So there's this usual this dawning of realization that I have encumbered myself and I have loaded myself with things that actually are ill-fitting, that are weighing me down. And that if I'm going to serve myself and to serve the way that I want to be, then I have to unencumber myself and go back to what Jesus was talking about, taking his yoke on us, not something that is a burden. Probably enough thought there. Why don't we take that into 30 seconds of contemplation, and then we'll bring it into land. Holy and loving one, as we grow in you, may we know the freedom which comes from our own personalities which you have given us. Guide us to know what to use as a framework for our own growth, to aid us and to give us strength in you. Amen. Amen. One more day this week, and then we'll have a day off on Sunday. Bless you. See you tomorrow.